and they couldn't see any blood flow anywhere in his body, and we couldn't hear his heartbeat. I'm Rachel.
I'm Taylor.
And we're taking part in this project because we want our story to help somebody else who we know will eventually have to go through this, though we really hope no one else has to. I don't know, life in general for us is usually pretty chill with some chaotic things thrown in there every once in a while. I'm a stay-at-home wife due to the circumstances of my husband's job.
And I'm in the military.
Yeah. We move more often than other people do, so we try to just keep it really chill for now. And I would say my hobbies are art in general and playing video games.
Mine are playing video games and just being an all-out nerd.
Which is where our son actually got his name, was from a video game character that we both really like. So, our son's name was Ventus. He was a little spitfire. We found out we were pregnant.
It's like maybe
the last week of December, and then we finally got a positive test the first week of January, before all the COVID stuff happened. And we actually had to move
during the beginning of the epidemic.
We left our previous post the day everything shut down.
Yep.
Because at that point I was, 3 months pregnant? 3-4 months, roughly?
Give or take. And
we had to move during all of it. We stayed with some family members in between our previous post and this post. And when we finally got here, everything was going fine. I got into an actual doctor's office just fine. Had a few issues there, but nothing pertinent.
Typical military crazy bullshit.
But everything, even considering the stress from a move and the stress from, the pandemic starting, I had no issues with my pregnancy. And he was a little butt. He kicked my ribs so hard every day. I thought he was gonna break them. And he would only calm down when he would come over and put his hand on my belly, or if our youngest cat came over and cuddled on him. That never calmed down for me, ever. My mom called me the Friday before everything happened, saying that her friend's kids went in to have their baby because my mom's friend's son found out they were pregnant around the same time we found out we were pregnant, and then a few months later her other son found out he was going to have a kid. So it was, everybody becoming grandparents all at the same time, and it was supposed to be really happy. And then I think right after that phone call, I called her Saturday to show her how much he would kick and just be super active anytime grandma called, and she absolutely loved it. And I think an hour or two after that,
it was probably around 11 o'clock when we decided to go to bed that night.
But I had been kind of
feeling off for a little bit.
I was feeling off for a couple hours before, and I just thought, maybe I just wasn't feeling good, because pregnancy's a doozy.
And then probably around maybe midnight, we were having some pain.
Yeah, and nothing was fixing it. I took a hot shower. I tried, a heating pad, and, I tried walking around, and we called...
First, we called a
nurse hotline.
For military members.
And they
said... Their particular one.
Yeah, they said, as soon as sounds like you could be having false labor, you know, possibly actual contractions, but he wasn't due for another month. And I thought, you know, oh, it's just false labor, because I was really excited that, you know, our friends are having their baby, ours will be here soon, this is our first kid, you know, we're jittery, nervous, anxious the entire time.
Yep.
And
so, but
the nurse hotline told us, you know, start timing the contractions. If you feel like you need to go in, you know, call the hospital ahead of time to make sure they know you're coming. Well, when we called the hospital, the nurse on the line said, well, your contractions aren't close enough together, you know, maybe wait a little bit longer. And that didn't sit right with either of us, so we called his sister, who is
an
OB, midwife, the whole shebang. And she said, you know, if you've tried everything and it's not making you feel better, you're probably in the early stages of labor, go ahead and go to the hospital. You know, it'll make you feel better even if you're not. So
we pretty much just left that night to the hospital. We
left at 2 o'clock in the morning, and oh my gosh, the ride there was so long. It felt like it took forever.
Because the other thing is we never actually decided to take a drive to the hospital yet.
That weekend was going to be our practice driving to
like
and from the hospital. Seeing how
it is and where it is and where we would need to go and things of that sort.
So 2 o'clock in the morning, took us 30 minutes to get there. We're driving around this whole hospital because they had construction, and, you know, we're like, okay, do we need to go here? Is this the ER? Is this the ER? Is this labor and delivery? So I'm in the car just in pain. And he's running inside going, is this where I need to take my wife? She's in pain. Where do I go? So a nice security guard finally told us, okay, you know, you need to go around here. Forgot to tell us it was the bumpiest road possible.
Yeah, the hospital was doing some construction, so there's a lot of things going on.
And we finally get in, and they could tell I'm in a lot of pain just from early contractions.
So she immediately went up to the
little exam
labor and
room.
Delivery area. And I went to go park a car, and then I got lost in the hospital too. So
when he finally found me, one of the really nice nurses, I cannot remember half of my nurses' names, but all of them were so nice and just so gentle with everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're strapping all this stuff up to me. They're making sure, you know, my blood pressure is good. It was a little high considering everything going on. That was fine. But they started strapping the heart monitor up to my belly, and we couldn't hear anything at first. So they started pulling more people in, and I'm totally oblivious, just thinking, you know, he's always hidden from these things. He hated.
Yeah, he's always had issues with a Doppler, so we were expecting that and everything. And nurses seemed kind of hesitant a little bit, but then they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and grab the doctor in here to have him come and see if he can't find it with the ultrasound." Like, okay.
And they couldn't find anything, and they couldn't see any blood flow anywhere in his body. And we couldn't hear his heartbeat. And I'm just thinking, you know, maybe they have the wrong spot. They're looking at the placenta or something. And I think you caught on first.
Mm.
And then they explained everything to us.
And it was just, from there, it just was a huge, devastating night. Because it's just, luckily the doctor was, granted, yes, he was on call, and yes, he was actually just staying in the hospital because he was doing a remote location kind of thing.
Yeah.
So kind of blunt, but it's understandable.
We needed that.
Yeah.
And with him and pretty much his entire family being in the medical field, I knew as long as I asked a very blunt question, in their medical opinion, was there anything we could do to save him? And when he said no, I knew that was it. And my first reaction was, I immediately want this over with. I want it done. And I asked for a C-section, and he said, that's probably not the best thing, because then you'll have a physical reminder on your body forever.
Which I'm glad he kind of explained them that
Yeah.
aspect too.
And all of our family was 9 hours away, and we had to call my mom, who was awake at the time.
Yeah.
Because we had called her on the way to the hospital saying, hey, we're going to go to the hospital, get everything checked out.
Which would be, and we found out probably about the time that she actually would be waking up to go to work.
Around 5 or 6 in the morning. And I called her and just kind of lost it.
Yeah. But luckily, the docs give us a suggestion of like, why don't you wait until your family gets here to do the full delivery, and so you at least have some people here. We'll go ahead and move you to another room and everything like that, which their entire staff was absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah, their staff was so good. I want to go have our next child there.
Which we do plan on having.
Yes. I'm actually friends with one of the nurses who took care of me on Facebook, and I'm going to tell her, hey, I'm going in to have my next one. If you're on call or on shift in the next couple days while I'm there, if you want to come visit, please do. But it was the most gut-wrenching feeling, because we didn't know what happened to him.
Yeah.
We didn't know if it was my fault, if something had just gone wrong with him, because up until this point, his heartbeat was always really strong. He was always moving, but we still had another 6 or 7 hours before my mom and my dad got there. They didn't have to induce me at all, because my body realized,
vapor.
It realized something had gone wrong, and it was time to start the process. And because they didn't have to worry about medicine interfering with Ven, they decided to let me have morphine to get through the early contractions. And due to the circumstances, they also let my mom into the delivery room, along with my husband.
Because this is also during the COVID policies of everything.
Yeah, this was August 16th at this point. We just spent all day just calling people and just trying to work through everything. I think the hardest was calling my grandpa and him not realizing, what was going on. And he was all happy and everything, going, oh, you're in the hospital? Oh, I can't wait to meet him. I'll be up there as soon as I can. And I just break down, because I'm like, he's gone, don't worry about coming up, just, he's gone. And he didn't get that.
Yep.
So I had to hand phone to him. And I know I kept blaming myself, because we didn't know what happened. We wouldn't know what happened until he was born.
Mm-hmm.
The ultrasound kind of showed something around his neck, but we, again, wouldn't know for sure. And on the 17th, I had an epidural the night before, and I feel this just rush or gush of liquid, and I thought, oh no, my catheter came out. And I go, I think I peed the bed. And the nurse, my mom calls in the nurse, because she knew it wasn't that. So the nurse comes in and goes, your water broke. It's getting to be go time. And it was at that moment I'm like, no, I'm not ready for this to be over. Because once it was out, it was... it was really over that he was gonna be gone. And I wouldn't have him anymore. But the labor itself really, I don't have anything else to compare it to, but it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. Because I always had the notion of, labor being the hardest, most painful thing you'll go through. But an epidural really does help.
Morphine probably helped a little bit before that, though.
Yeah, getting through the contractions with the morphine definitely took the edge off. Could still feel a lot of it, just it took the edge off of everything. But
they won't normally also do that for normal delivery either.
Once he was out, they saw that the umbilical cord was very tightly around his neck, and that was most likely the cause of death. So my son's death day is August 14th, and his birthday is August 17th. And I had to stay in the hospital for a few more days after that because I got a small infection from carrying him after he had passed. So that was hard because all of our family started to show up and support for us. And I think the one thing we weren't expecting was the chiefs to come to our door while my husband was home alone with my dad because they had heard what happened. Usually chiefs will only show up in their really nice uniforms to a home if someone in the military family has passed away. The chiefs were very respectful and helped Taylor get through everything. Granted, I think at that point we were just totally in shock and still just in denial of everything happening.
Yeah.
We had him cremated, and we had a memorial for him that Friday after I got home. And the funeral home that we had picked out did an absolutely fantastic job. The director who was in charge of Ven's funeral got a couple things from, like a couple details about Taylor and I from my mom and wrote the most perfect little card for him. And it was really nice. We had my grandma and grandpa, another one of my grandfathers, my mom and dad, my sister and her husband. We had your sister,
my brother,
your brother's girlfriend as proxy.
Yep, because he couldn't make it, sadly.
And
then my mother.
Your mom, yep. And then your chief in HM1 came too. His sister, the one who told us to go to the hospital, shared a really nice speech. And at the end of it, we have a niece who was, 4 or 5 at the time?
Okay.
And she said, she was so happy to know that Aunt Rachel was going to have a baby, and she just wanted to be friends with that baby. We know that Ven is hanging out with his grandpa. We see him just
chilling out,
asking stories about mommy and daddy.
And listening to all the other stories that he has to tell. Because he was an interesting dude.
He was a very interesting guy. And I'm sure Ven is hanging out with all the other kids who've been in this situation.
Yeah.
And, doing what kids do and play on the playground. Just
being obnoxious.
Getting into trouble.
Breaking things. And it's actually come, like, ever since it's happened, it's just been one of those things I've never really honestly thought about, because it hasn't happened to me. And so, but when I found out and when everything happened, and especially going back to where I work and like talking to people and them asking how everything is, and I go up and tell them, it's just like, oh, I'm so sorry and everything like that. And I come to find out there's been a couple people that's had somewhat similar things happen to them, but it's not one of those things I've really ever heard anyone talk about at all.
And
you see things happen on like movies and TV and things like that.
It really feels like everything around you just crumbles and you can't feel anything. I think after that first day, you and I didn't cry until his memorial.
We definitely broke down when we found out.
And then I think I kept breaking down just because...
Yeah.
I mean, I was in physical and mental pain all at the same time, and...
Just done.
Everybody who took care of me in the hospital was so nice. All of our doctors were so good with everything. My normal OBGYN doctor was actually the doctor who delivered Ben for us. And she told me to come back in and see her in a week to see how I was doing. And then again in 6 weeks as the normal postpartum checkup. And she sat down and she talked with me and, you know, related to me on every level that you can. And I think I had the best team of doctors I possibly could.
Mm.
I don't think this has affected our relationship in a bad way.
No, I mean, not a good way or a bad way. Me and you have always had like a pretty decent relationship. We've known each other for 13 years, and we've been married for...
It'll be 7 this year.
Yep.
And I think after this, we made it a thing to really just sit down with each other, not with anybody else, and just kind of check in and see how each other is dealing with it.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, being able to go... I know you've been seeing someone, like a therapist and things of that sort, which has been relatively okay, I would assume.
Yeah. It's helped.
Yeah. And I've talked to a chaplain. Actually, we both talked to the same chaplain.
Yeah.
That was our first, like, kind of therapy for it.
Yeah. That was our very first. And we did that as a couple.
Yeah.
And then you have someone at your work that you can see.
Yeah. Which I've seen them a couple times, but other than that, it's just one of those things. Just talking to you about it more, explaining what happened with everything has helped me a lot.
Yeah, that's why I did the AMA, was it helps us cope, but it also brings to light our story and trying to get the stigma that we've experienced around it all to go away. Yeah. We want to help people understand that this happens.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Maybe not to you, maybe not to your friend, but you will know someone in your lifetime that has had this happen, whether it be a miscarriage or a stillbirth. I think it'll be 6 months in February, and I think we've been coping with it very well.
Yeah.
And we've had people tell us that, you know, we're a really strong couple together and that we're both really brave. I mean, we're not like dressed in black the entire time, and we're not, you know, super depressed for the last 5 months. We've had our good days and our bad days, but it's not how people would normally, I guess, expect grief to go.
Yeah. Grief
is not linear. I still get very angry sometimes and just want to throw things. And then I know some days I don't want to get out of bed. I just want to sleep. I don't want to deal with anything.
Yeah.
We do still have his nursery room closed.
We will periodically go in there, grab things that we need to, or put things in there that we need to put in there. But it's just like, eventually, when we come to be pregnant again, it'll be our new one's room.
Yep. So, Ben will get to pass down everything he didn't get to use to his little brother or sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of our family members have been really accepting that we are so ready to be pregnant within the first year of all of this happening. I know some people wait longer, and I mean, it's mostly just how they deal with everything, and there's no problem with that. We've been married 6.5 years. We were very ready to be a family of 3 because we fought off all the questions in the first couple of years of, well, why don't you have kids? Why don't you have kids? When are you having kids? It's like, we're not ready. As a couple, we're not ready.
We're not Catholic. We're not like that.
I think that definitely the hardest part, besides losing him and having to deal with all that, is just having to go through day to day, knowing that we could have been doing this, we should have been doing that. Like, we just celebrated Christmas, and, you know, it should have been his first Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
But he still got an ornament on the tree.
Mm-hmm.
I already had a Halloween costume picked out for him and everything. But I'll get to use that for our next one.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really had a whole lot of interaction with other people with the subject besides medical staff. And usually they'll come in, you know, hi, how you doing? This is, you know, what we're gonna do today. Have you ever been pregnant? Yes. Are you breastfeeding? No. And then they'll see my file and go, oh,
oops,
I'm so sorry. And usually it's just you know, you didn't know, you weren't part of the whole thing, it's fine. But some days it's like, I have to go through this all again. And we both have a mild form of PTSD from the event. And I still get flashbacks.
Yeah.
We do like to talk about him a lot. You know.
I don't know, like, yeah, you little shit.
He was our little shit.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because my stepdad, who's the grandpa who passed away, was always like, as soon as you have a child, the world's gonna end.
And of course,
and lo and behold,
as soon as we got pregnant,
an epidemic.
Like the worst year. And we really thought we were gonna have like the happiest ending to the year because we were gonna bring home our son and everything was gonna be just hunky-dory.
With the hospital and everything like that, I guess they have that Molly Bear program.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the Molly Bear that we got for Ventus.
It's weighted to his birth weight when he was born.
So he's a heavy bear.
He is 5 pounds, 6 ounces.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the family that had a similar situation decided to do something like this because of the whole
empty arm syndrome.
Yes.
Where you physically ache to hold your child. And at first, I know I didn't want to, after he was born, I didn't want to see him, I didn't want to hold him. Mm-hmm. I wanted everything to be over and done with. Because I was still in the delivery room for the first few hours, they actually had him over in the
warmer,
the baby warmer, and of course they didn't turn it on. That would be silly. So I knew he was there, and I knew after a while, I had that physical ache to hold him. But at the same time, it was like, I don't want to hold, you know, a dead body. That was the hardest thing of, it's my son, but it's also a dead body. And I ended up holding him with his face covered because I didn't want to remember my son like that. Because
we had the 3D ultrasound done.
Yeah, so we have pictures, or we have a 3D ultrasound of his face, and he was really cute. He came out with dark hair like his dad, but he got my ears and my nose, and
He got my feet.
he got his feet. I worked 9 months making him, and he comes out with your toes. I think you saw him when you left the room the first time.
Yes.
And I'm glad I listened to you about not wanting to see his face.
I think that would have been way more detrimental than, because he didn't look.
He didn't look like a normal, healthy baby.
Yes.
He looked too red because of losing circulation to his brain and everything.
So it was just like, as you can imagine, like the whole body shut down.
He
Everything
was
was
colored. But I held him there, and then I held him 2 days after, when I was getting ready to be discharged. I held him one more time. I think one of the misconceptions about stillbirth and miscarriage in general is that they're the same thing. Stillbirth is, I think,
close to term
after the first three or 4 months.
Miscarriage is like when it's still a bunch of cells almost.
First 3 or 4 months, usually.
Yeah, because if it's a stillbirth, you pretty much get to know your baby a lot more for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, we're not,
because they'll be able to listen to sounds and like kind of understand a little bit.
He recognized his dad's voice. He recognized his grandma's voice. He recognized the lullabies I would play for him, trying to get him to calm down. And a miscarriage, we're not, discounting
How hard that is
any
at
pregnancy
all.
loss. Just, we got to know our son a little bit while he was still here. And I really wish more people had gotten to know him. It was really hard for our family to come to terms with it.
And I think it still probably affects a lot of them too.
Yeah.
So.
My grandmother got to feel him kick a few times. And that was special because I'm the oldest child in general on my side of the family. And he's the youngest kid in his family. Besides your stepbrother. So this was going to be, the first great-grandchild on my side. Most of our friends have been really understanding about everything. Your work was really understanding, and
Chain of Command was absolutely fantastic, so.
They started a food train for us, so everybody knew, we would have a warm meal almost every night.
Yeah, they would send us food or give us
Grubhub and Uber Eats, and they made sure we were taken care of and didn't have to worry about making food or anything.
Yeah.
Which was really, really nice, and we got to try so much good food. Oh my gosh. One thing I can say doctors really should talk to their pregnant patients about is there is a possibility of losing your child at any point during the pregnancy. So they need to tell them, if you feel anything is wrong, whether physically, emotionally, mentally, you come in.
And it's one of those things that's like, yeah, it could be completely nothing, but it's
better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
We are glad we didn't listen to the hospital nurse first, because I'm sure she had to deal with so many pregnant women going, oh, you know, I think I'm in labor, and they come in and it's false labor, it's gas.
Braxton Hicks.
Oh my gosh, Braxton Hicks sucks so much.
But it's one of the, I know it's actually something that we probably will be very wary on with our next one. It's just like, if anything feels off, because you now have an idea of how everything's supposed to feel.
Yes.
That as soon as anything goes wrong, it's just like, you gotta go to the hospital now.
Those motherly instincts you start to develop, listen to them. They are your best tool when dealing with being pregnant.
Yeah.
So.
And as for those dads, just don't go freaking crazy, because it's just one of those things. It's either completely normal or it's just like, you need to go to the hospital.
Don't panic. Stay as calm as you can and just listen. Just listen to your wife, listen to your partner, and don't discount anything. If they say they're feeling sick, you know, call their OB, call a nurse, do something. Just so they don't, you know, get anxious about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can figure out if something's going wrong. The earlier you notice, the better chance you have. To anybody else who has to go through this, it does get better. I mean, you'll still have hard days.
Oh yeah, it's a nasty little roller coaster that you're going to really have to get off of.
A destruction room, if you can get to one, has been the most therapeutic thing I think we've done.
Yeah, because breaking things definitely helps. It's not the healthiest thing that we'll do in the world, but it's in a controlled environment if it's in a destruction room.
And you don't have to clean anything up.
No.
You get to just
break things.
Take that primal rage that comes out and just break things.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels good. It will get better. The world doesn't end. And I know it's going to feel like it is, but you can do it. I always told myself that, you know, Ben wouldn't want me to stay sad forever. He would want me to go out and, you know, try to be my normal self as much as I could be. I know in the beginning I really wanted to, you know, join him.
Mm.
I don't know if you had the same thought at all, but my mom made me promise that I wouldn't, and she told me that he wouldn't want that. Because if he's gonna sit wherever he's at and vet, you know, other souls or whatever he's doing to be candidates for our next one, he's taking his time. But I don't want to put all his hard work to waste for that.
Not to mention Daddy wouldn't be happy either.
Yeah, no, Daddy wouldn't be happy. So, I guess just talk to someone.
Know for a father that it's not your fault. It's not your wife's fault. You don't need to go crazy on anybody. Just, if you talk to someone, talk to someone. I'm a very big advocate for mental health. It's something that you absolutely need. If you have issues, go get seen for issues.
And that was one thing we found. We found hardly anything to help with a father's emotional loss or a partner's emotional loss.
Because it's just...
Everyone focuses on the mom because she's had a physical, emotional, mental loss.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. But there needs to be something for the partner, too.
Yeah, and there's been a good couple of things, but...
There needs to be more. I know you attached really quickly to him.
Mm-hmm.
You loved anytime I came over. It was just like, here, feel him. He's kicking, calm him down. But yeah, there needs to be more mental health set up for husbands, partners, anything like that.
Yeah. Well, something that before we even did the AMA, it was just like we told our entire family, like, if you have any questions about anything, just ask us.
Yeah. People asking us questions helps us cope.
Whether or not it'll help you, it
depends on couples or people in general. I think my favorite question was still the one my sister asked me. We were at a restaurant and I still had everything happen after pregnancy that was supposed to happen. My milk came in, I had stretch marks, I had, the heavy bleeding and everything. So my sister, who I don't think had any pregnant friends or anyone in her direct circle have kids, so she didn't know. I had to try to stop my milk production. So she asked if my husband would have to milk me like a cow. And it was the most innocent but out of left field question I could have gotten. And I think I just stared at her and then just busted out laughing. And it felt really good to just have a real genuine laugh. It was great. And I told her, no, he doesn't have to milk me like a cow. I just have to wear cabbage leaves.
Which is a weird thought.
But yeah, it's a weird thing, I guess they help try to get milk to stop with. My cabbages. Yeah, that was the running joke of my cabbages. It's still gonna be a running joke. I know that. But people who are going to go support someone who's gone through this need to realize that almost anything can be a trigger, and you will most likely see your friend or family member break down quite a few times. I broke down over the smell of Chinese food because it smelled like the blankets they wrapped them in. I didn't eat. I just walked to the kitchen and broke down and put the food away, and my mom came over and gave me a hug. And that was all I needed. Yeah.
Going out to the grocery shop and seeing families with their kids has just been a hard one too.
Yeah, because it's like, that should have been us. That could have been us. But society in general needs to destigmatize this whole thing because it happens. It happened to us. It happened to Chrissy Teigen. Not long after.
Yeah.
And I know the support we've had has been overwhelming. I'm sure the support she has had has been overwhelming. If you're scared to bring up a child's name who has passed away because you don't want to remind the parents, don't be. Because it's not like you're gonna, remind them. They always have a constant reminder. And, we have our son's urn, like a little, I don't know if it's like a little shrine to it. I don't know if that's the best word, but it's his place in our home. Mm-hmm. It's in our main room. It's got foxes all over it because he is our little fox pup. And he will always be our little fox pup. Mm-hmm. I think we've also decided on having 2 now. Mm-hmm. Because before it was going to be one and done.
And just be done.
Yeah, but now it's, we want our next one, who's going to be named Sora. And then we might try again after that too. Mm-hmm. So... And I'm hoping people will know the correlation between Ventus and Sora, but if not, Ventus is the purest heart character in Kingdom Hearts. And when I first played the game, he was so innocent. I'm like, I just want to protect this little thing. But the bad guy ends up doing him in, and he has to send his heart out to kind of hide somewhere so it doesn't get lost. And he finds this little kid named Sora. He goes, hey, would you mind, taking care of this for me while I'm, asleep? And he goes, sure. So we think of it as Ventus doing the same thing to our next one, going, hey, I left my mommy and daddy at home. Do you mind going to take care of them for me? And I think that's why we picked him. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's pretty much our story and our experience with everything.
Thank you for listening.
Yep. And we hope, if it happens to you, which we really hope it never does, that you can find your support group. And if you need to find us, reach out on this video and we'll talk to you. We'll help you through it. Okay?
And the internet is a great thing just to find people to talk to about things. And there's always someone to talk to.
Yep. So,
thank you.
Thanks.